Robert Jenrick, a British Conservative politician who has served in several government roles and someone who really hates breaking the law. He is married to an Israeli citizen, and I'll bring this up a little bit later, but he's also been involved in further controversies, including his approval of $1 billion housing development for a Conservative donor, Richard Desmond, which critics said was rushed to avoid a tax charge and was found to be unlawful. As in, he broke the law.
It's unacceptable to break the law.
Breaking the law.
And in April 2023, Jenrick was disqualified for driving for 6 months and fined $1,600 because he was driving at 68 miles an hour in a 40. But remember,
It's unacceptable to break the law.
But it doesn't end there, because his disgustingness continued as the immigration minister who painted over a mural at a children's immigration centre for children who have lost their parents.
Did you really paint over a mural of Mickey Mouse in an immigration detention centre?
It did happen. It wasn't exactly like that. What I wanted to ensure, and I still believe this is right, is that not children, but adults, if you break into our country, then that should be treated with all due seriousness. That's a crime. Those places should be places of law enforcement. But of course,
He then proceeded to lie in this interview, suggesting that actually it was an immigration centre for adults.
we should treat
Do you regret the...
Yes, I don't want to treat children in anything other than a compassionate and fair manner.
But it gets better, because he also insults his wife a little bit later on, during a car crash interview on the BBC.
In terms of immigration, though, as you've said, you lost your reputation on immigration, but also in terms of managing the economy, and that's always been what the Conservatives put front and centre, and we're very proud of that. Many businesses would say, actually, if you take a much firmer line on immigration, if you really cut the numbers, actually there'll be a price to pay. The economy would suffer as a result.
Correct. 500,000 people left the UK in 2022, 600,000 in 2023, and our birth rate is at 156. In order to replace that low birth rate figure, you need about 400,000 people coming into the country. You also need to be increasing the population. So when you see that the country is 900,000 people a year worse off, you can start to see why the government under the Conservatives had 1.2 million coming in.
Are you willing to see the economy not grow as quickly or even take a hit if you're able to do your number one priority and cut the numbers of immigrants?
Well, firstly, I do want to get the economy growing faster again. I want to reclaim the mantle for the Conservative Party of low tax and pro-growth.
Sounds like Liz trusts economics.
But I don't agree that the age of mass migration has made our country richer.
I wonder if that includes his wife, who was born in Israel, learnt law in America and the UK, and is qualified in both. In 2017, she was included in the Financial Times Heroes list, which recognises top 50 female champions of women in business in the UK and Ireland. And according to reports, she has advised on some of the largest and most complex global M&A transactions. But according to Jenrick, immigration is not a good thing.
You know, in the 25 years since Tony Blair became Prime Minister, we've had 5.9 million people coming into our country legally. It was 59,000 in the 25 years prior to that. And this has not been a period of record growth, record productivity growth.
That would include his own wife. Except that's complete because in 2008 we had an economic crash and we've never recovered, and of course he was the one that backed Brexit. In fact, if you really wanted to get nitpicky about the whole thing, it's actually under the Conservatives that immigration has skyrocketed. Probably because people have been leaving because of the Conservatives. But the real kicker? Well, all the findings seem to show that immigrants in the UK who have been here since 2000 have actually contributed enormously to the economy of the UK, somewhere in the region of about 5 billion. Some are even suggesting 3 billion a year. And for the vast majority of these people coming over, they're over the age of 18, which means we haven't had to provide for them. We haven't had to provide schools or hospital treatment, saving us exorbitant amounts of money.
In fact, far from it. I wrote a report earlier in the year that set out that the level of migration and the types of people coming into our country, which are mostly low-wage, low-skilled people, are actually costing the economy money.
And
the OBR, you might have noticed in the sum, actually said that I was right on that.
This is the report, and frankly, it's a load of The reason being is it doesn't actually reference what I've referenced earlier, the 500,000 leaving, or the birth rate being at 156 when we need it at 2.1. And if you need examples of where we've got issues with labour shortages, just have a listen to this.
Most of the labourers come from Bulgaria and Romania, but this season, staff have been hard to find. Normally we have 180, and that is just about enough. This year we've been running sort of between 10 and 20% short all year.
The reasons for the labour shortage are varied. Romania's economy is improving just as the British pound is devaluing. There are also some Europeans who don't feel welcome in Britain following the Brexit vote.
This is what happens when there aren't enough workers to pick the ripe fruit. The plastic tunnels come down, the plants are cut, and the berries that should have been on our plates go to waste. Already this year alone, Alistair has thrown out 60 tonnes of raspberries simply because there wasn't anyone to harvest them.
The horticultural industry in the UK employs 90,000 people, but farmers worry after Brexit, extra immigration bureaucracy for EU nationals will make it even harder to find labourers.
Every other country in Europe is now recruiting from outside the EU. There's a lot of competition for good, highly motivated, skilled harvest workers. If you're sitting at home in Romania or Bulgaria and you can go through a complicated visa system to come to the UK or just go to Germany, guess where you'll go.
And that's the thing, a lot of these Brexiteers don't seem to grasp that we're now not with Europe, we're competing with Europe.
But there's a question of principle though here, isn't there? That many people want to see immigration come down, but many people also want there to be enough carers in the social care sector, for example. They want there to be enough nurses in the NHS. They want there to be enough people available to work in the bars and restaurants, maybe when they, go to London for a special weekend of treats. It's an important question of principle. Would you be willing to see jobs stay vacant, the economy perhaps shrink or not grow as fast as you would like it to, but if the numbers of immigrants came down, would that be a price worth paying?
Well, firstly, and this is an important point of difference in this leadership contest, I do think we have to make clear that we're going to do this time, because we lost so much trust by failing to deliver this in the past. And so that means Parliament setting a legally binding cap on migration in the tens of thousands or lower.
Now, I actually read the report, Taking Back Control. What a name. And obviously within that report, it seems to use some data, and it was interesting that he said the OBR supported it. However, it does not contain any information I've put out there. The 500,000 leaving is not brought up. It also does not bring up the 1.56 birth rate. And for a document to be able to write something like this, you would think that it would need all data to be able to provide a decent analysis, which is why it's total bull. In fact, it pissed me off so much that I wrote my own document, The Road Back to Europe, Fixing Britain's Economic Decline and Population Crisis. When you're partnered to a migrant, you should not hate migration. It's a 15-page document which I've put a link to at the end of this video. It clearly sets out the problems, the fact that we've got hundreds of thousands leaving and we've got a birth rate that needs replacing. But it also sets out practical ways of doing this, including rejoining the EU, but also the idea that there are some things that the government could be doing to try and increase the birth rate.
Otherwise, politicians can't look the public in the eye and say, this is definitely happening. And that was at the heart of the reason I resigned as a minister, because I didn't want to be just another minister who made and broke promises.
But
on your specific point,
that might have.
I don't pretend that ending this era of mass migration is going to be plain sailing.
One, how can you come up with any data if you don't include proper data in your actual report? But also, he's just openly said he's willing to make sure that there are less people in the country and it'll take a hit. But that does not mean you'll get more doctor places, or you'll be seen by nurses quicker, or your kid will be guaranteed a place in the school. No. What it means is that you'll continue to have a downturn, and most likely more people will be leaving, and the birth rate will continue to drop.
It requires us to link up our skills policy and our welfare policy and have a proper plan as to how we handle this. But I don't think that it needs to cost us.
Hold on, he just said that it won't cost us anything, but a few seconds ago he said this.
I don't pretend that ending this era of mass migration is going to be plain sailing.
It will cost us quite a bit.
Money. There are millions of people in our country who are on welfare. I want to help those people into the dignity and the security of work.
Ah yes, the myth that there are millions of people available that just sat around on benefits. This simply isn't true. This is a made-up thing like unicorns, or the earth is flat, or Brexit will work. In my report, I dispel this myth because I point out that it's a combination of students, the retired, carers, and people who are long-term sick that are in that 5 million. He seems to want to get grannies to chase robbers.
I want to ensure that we are paying care workers more money. That is a better way for our country to conduct itself, rather than bringing in people from overseas.
Bringing in people from overseas would again include his own wife. So he wants to spend more money but have less taxes, and he also wants to take back control by allowing less people into the country and to try and somehow train up the population to do a job that isn't financially well paid. It just seems like, once again, he's pulling out unicorns, flat earth theory, and Brexit. I honestly don't know what to make of all of this. He's clearly broken the law and he seems to hate people who breaks the law. He doesn't like migration, but he's married a migrant. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Once again, thank you to all of my subscribers. Thank you to everyone who has supported this channel financially or just by hitting that like button. It all helps gather momentum. Once again, thanks for listening. Bye for now.